You know what the best part about old school chess is? Well, it's the pawn structure that arises in these chess games. I don't know what happened. Nowadays, maybe it's all just figured out by the engine, figured out by the computer. Maybe people don't like static in the center, but back in the day, they did. Today, we're going to be looking at an Aaron Nimzowitsch game. This game was played in the year 1926. His opponent is Paul Yoner, apparently 2480, Nimzowitsch 2600 plus. He was one of the best in the early 1900s, if not the best. And what do you guys know about Nimzowitsch? What openings did he contribute to modern day chess? He has a line in the Sicilian, he has a line in the French, he has a line in the Bogo Indian, Nimzo Indian, get it? Nimzowitsch, yes. Nimzo Larsen. This guy, he wasn't a theoretician, but he was just born at the right time and he was good at the right game at the right time, and now a lot of openings are named after him. So we're going to look at this whole game. It's one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen. Long time no see. It's been 2 weeks. Stay tuned at the end of the video. I'll do like a 1-minute rant. What's been going on? Why we're back? Why we weren't back? Things of that nature. But a lot of you just want the chess. So we're going to do the chess first. We get d4 by Yoner, knight to f6 in response. And what opening are we going to get? What opening is this? This is a Nimzo Indian, named after the guy Nimzowitsch. That is correct. A very nice opening, pins the pawn to the king, controls e4 with the knight because this knight is pinned to the king, so he cannot go things such as e4, so he goes e3. Kind of a cool, calm, collected, normal variation. I actually think it's called the normal line, which is funny. c5, not funny, it's not funny, it's just a fact. But c5 is a good move. It creates some tension in the center already. I love playing c5. Anytime your opponent plays d4, make sure to throw in an early c5 because they just don't like the tension. I mean, against a London player, I play c5 on move 2 because you know what a London player doesn't like? Tension. Doesn't like complications. I don't know why he plays chess then if he doesn't like complications. Unless he's playing the Jabava, then respect, because that's a cool one. Knight c6 castles. Oh, it feels good to be back. Let me tell you, this microphone took a few days to figure out what was wrong with it, but I think there's no ringing. Let me know of the quality, the audio, and let me know, yeah. I had to factory reset my laptop, fix the microphone, but I think I got the setup decent. Lighting, maybe the lighting isn't good. I wasn't able to bring we're back in the motherland. All right, we're back in the motherland, but we'll get to all that. So I couldn't bring everything. But back to chess. Pawn to d6, right? You don't want to go pawn to d5 and undouble his pawns because you just gave up a good bishop to double his pawns. So why would you then undouble his pawns? It just doesn't make too much sense. I'm excited for this game. It's a very beautiful game. Knight to d2, pawn to b6, knight to b3. We are almost the position that is critical here. We are at the critical position that I want to start talking about the game. Like, you just don't see these structures nowadays, right? Kind of like they're both playing a Dutch stonewall. Dutch, one is shifted along the axis, but it's kind of like a stonewall versus stonewall is the way I see it. Been out of chess for way too long, I'll tell you that much. Pawn to e4, gaining a tempo on the bishop. What else could you have done? You could take. Let's see how you would proceed if you chose to do that. So you might be like, this doubles up white's pawns, and that's true, but after the move d5, it's a decent position. It's quite a balanced position. Engine favors black. He just gained space with d5. That's really what solidified his position as okay. And this is a pretty bad pawn structure, right? You can see there's going to be an isolated pawn for white and not an isolated pawn for black shortly soon. Shortly soon? Maybe. That works. So what else? Well, we got pawn e4. He's like, space is pretty good. I'm going to get some space. Bishop e2. What does black have to be aware of? For those that stuck around, you're going to enjoy the rest of this game. It's quite fascinating. So black needs to be a little worrisome of g4, right? Because g4, g5 comes quite quickly. And now that white has a battery on g4, he's able to play the move pawn g4. What is the only way black can stop the move g4? Some of you might have said h5. Not quite, though, because there's two attackers on h5. So queen d7, doesn't that look like an odd move? It does. But chess is an odd game, and this move does the job, gets the job done. We get the move pawn to h3, trying to reinvigorate the idea g4, but Nimzowitsch had this all calculated. And maybe Yoner saw now why g4 would not be a great move. Do you see why g4 would not be a great move? Try to find the line. Well, the line would actually be pawn to h5. Now, I think the normal follow-up would be pawn to g5, and why does this not work? As you can see by the bar, error, blunder. Well, queen takes h3 would be the move. Not because of g takes f6. This would actually be balanced. You might be thinking, oh, king h8 mate. Well, no, there's rook f2, and then white is able to get out of it, and apparently it's a perpetual of some sort. But actually, the move is queen to g3 check, and then knight to f5, and essentially it's just Zooks 1. White barely has any moves, and there's a bunch of checkmating threats in the midst. For example, you can't go rook g1 because that would be checkmate in 1. So, that would have been a pretty cool line. That would have been a pretty cool line indeed. Maybe arguably f5 would be better, and then there'd be some complications. That would all favor black because his position is just more set up on the king side than white's. By the way, who benefits from the bishop pair? Is it open or closed? Well, it's a closed pawn structure. I love closed pawn structures. It's all about rotation. So the bishop pair is not good, right? The knights are favorited in closed positions typically. There are exceptions, but this bishop is no exception. This bishop is basura. It is garbage. I think that was the right word. I do speak a few languages. No, I don't. Yeah, I do, but not fluently. Queen to e1, pawn to h5, bishop to, enough to get around because I travel a lot. Like, you know, when you go a lot of places, you just got to be able to talk to people. You got to be conversational. That's the word I'm looking for. Bishop to d2, again, not a good bishop. He's trying to make it look better. All right. Who thought of the move queen f5? You're bluffing. Who thought of the reason of queen f5 after they saw it? Respect if you see it. I think most people here would play the move knight f5, but what's the problem with that move? Well, the problem with knight f5 is that they just go g4. It's not great. It's not looking too good. I'll tell you that much. This queen on e1, kind of like a Grand Prix queen. It's going to come in. It's covering a lot of critical squares. There's no knight g3. So knight f5 is premature. So I don't know how you play chess in the 1900s and think of the idea of queen f5 and queen h7. Right? When you see it, you're like, duh, obviously. But it's very hard to see. The point of this move is when the queen was on d7, the bishop was kind of shut out. Now it's not shut out. Now it's actually quite a good bishop. And it's fascinating to me that in these d4, like Indian positions, Nimzo Indian, King's Indian, Bogo Indian, this light scored bit, well, not in the Queen's Indian, that goes to b7 or a6. But in many of the defenses against d4, the bishop sits on c8 and it's the best piece on the board. Isn't that amazing? People think you need to move it to make it good. No, you don't need to move it when it's aiming at h3. And a moment's notice can sacrifice and make the board complicated in black's favor. But this queen on h7 is multi-purpose. Yes, it makes the bishop better, but it also kind of pushes the attack forward. You see, there's many ideas. Have you ever seen a queen on h7? Maybe in an endgame, but in a middle game like this, on move like 15? I don't think I have. And if I haven't, I think I've looked at a lot of chess, so I think it's a rarity. I think it's a rarity to have a queen on h7. I know it's a rarity to have a queen on h7. He jumps into the position, and then how do you deal with flank pawns? You deal with flank pawns with flank pawns. Blockade the flank pawn. That's what he does. It's a nice move. I like. A rook to g1. All right. Yoner was good. You know, his position obviously is not good, but he's not getting checkmated against Nimzowicz, so he's pretty good. Knight to h6, right? Aiming in on g4, and you might be like, oh my goodness, I'm a genius. I see how to win the game. Knight to g4. Not so fast. Not losing. That's how good your position is. It's so good that you're not losing. But if you go h takes g4, you are losing. And this is probably what people were looking at. But you see, this just doesn't work. This just doesn't work. Not so much. Not at all. So g4 is a good square to look at throughout the game. Right? Chess is a moving system. A lot of moving parts. Sometimes it might not. Sometimes it might work. This is not one of those times. But keep it in mind, I suppose. Bishop to d7, all right, connecting the rooks, tying down white's a rook down to his a pawn, so that's a nice facet of the move. Does that word make sense? Bishop to c1, white's like, I'm out of moves. I really don't know what to do, so I'm just going to move my bishop back. Look, guys. I want you to focus on the pawn structure. You do not see these types of pawn structures nowadays anymore, but look at it. I mean, this is what chess is all about. Is this not what chess is all about? Am I wild for saying this is amazing? Closed positions improve positional chess. So, you know, open, tactic, 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 closed, build, build, simmer, brew, do all that good stuff, and then strike. But you have time to bring everything into your position, right? Tempo, tempi, plural, tempi matter a lot less in closed positions because it's more about rotation, right? So since it's so locked up, it's going to blow open eventually, but you have all this time to coordinate, shuffle, reroute, kind of just get the formation that you want. And both sides have that ability. So may the best man win. The guy with the knight pair, not the bishop pair. Rook to c8, kind of just a waiting move. White responds with gaining space. But again, it's just closing the position furthermore. Who does that help? Doesn't help the guy with the bishop pair. So who does it help? We got king to h8. I missed YouTube. I missed YouTube. I really did. It's not been blessing recently, but I still missed it. This is fun. King to h8, knight to d2, and we got rook to g8. See, this is beautiful. I mean, this is like a typical grandmaster plan. You shift, prophylactics, but it's more about attacking, right? Like you look at king h8, you're like, oh, it's a precautionary defensive measure. No, it's actually an offensive measure, very much so. Pawn to g5 striking. Are all the pieces in the game? No. So rook to g7, he's literally bringing all, look at this. Look at this. He understands the position. We have a bishop on h1. What is that doing? Is this rook going to shift to g2? I mean, first of all, let's just look at this. Yes, there's mate in 2. I didn't even, you know, it's a puzzle, but I just want, look at this. This is not good. Knight g4, boom, checkmate. So not an easy position for white to play. Of course, he'll never play rook g2. I just saw a cube, square, two-dimensional in the corner of the board, and I wanted to make it. Queen d1, all right. Nothing else can be added to the attack, so he's like, I'm going to take. Why did he say I'm going to take? Well, he said I'm going to take because it's a forcing move and it opens up everything. Why is this a forcing move? Well, because he can't take with the g-pawn. So it's something you just don't need to calculate. He needs to take with the e-pawn. In this position, Nimzowitsch missed a win. There's a few. I don't really like the move he played. I can respect the move he played, but it was time to strike. I mean, my guy, look at your position. Everything's in. It's time to strike. Try to see if you could find the win. A couple of my students found the win, and I was very impressed. The move is knight h4, which isn't so crazy. Okay, there's better, knight g4, but let's go over knight h4. It's just as winning. The point of knight h4 is that the g-pawn is pinned, but okay, they're not going to take it, right? That would be hope chess. What else is the reasoning behind the move? The reasoning is queen to f5, checkmate. Can't be stopped by too many moves except the move knight to e3. Now you have the brilliancy, bishop takes h3. This is a very abstract sacrifice. King takes best move, knight f5, and the point is you're just getting in. You're just ripping everything open. Your pieces are coordinated. Look at their bishops, stare at their bishops, make fun of their bishops. They're not good bishops. And you just have a crushing attack. So he played the move bishop to c8, which, okay, I mean, okay, poking, prodding. But this bishop is so nice, but it ended up working in his favor, right? I do love bishop. I love backwards bishop moves, moving them back to the start. I do it all the time. His opponent messed up right away, so I guess it worked in his favor. He had to really rotate over to the king side because that's where everything is. And aim in, you know, multi-purpose, aiming in at a pawn and such. But he goes queen to b3, and it just doesn't make too much sense, right? Because the queen's not doing anything on the queen side but guarding a pawn that, if lost, the board would become more open and maybe your bishop pair would have become better. But then black finds knight h4. And then what's the move? What's the move? Bishop back to c8. Right? And now the queen is misplaced. So it ended up working in his favor, actually. He ended up getting a better version of it. So good guy. What do you take with? Not with the knight. Right? Look at these knights. Look at the holes these knights have. You want to keep your knights. You want to get rid of the bishop that is hanging. So he does that. Take with the knight. Don't take with the queen because you have a crushing attack. So you don't want to trade queens. Leave the pieces on the board. Because your pieces are more... Look at this coordination. That's not coordination. That's not coordination. This is coordination. Did that make sense? Rook to e2, h4. All right. The g-pawn is pinned. We got rook to g2. Of course, you take with check. And he's just wrapping it up. Let's see, how does he wrap the game up? Queen to h3, guarding the knight. attacking everything, threatening rook h7 checkmate. The only way white can get out of checkmate is try to dip with his king. But too little too late. Now, should you take this rook? I'm sure if you take it, you're still winning. But the rook is pinned, so there's no point in taking it. Just improve your position. Actually, find the best move in this position. He played rook e8, and Yona resigned. But even better was knight f3. This just wins the game because the king cannot run. The rook cannot come back to g1. The pawn covers f2. So essentially, it's just checkmate. So this was a beautiful game from the early 1900s. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Old school pawn structure, old school chess. There's really nothing better. Now, I'm going to be consistent with the uploads. This is my little vent. It's time. I tried uploading the last few days. As everybody knows, I'm back in Serbia, or as some of you know, I'm back in Serbia for a long time because I want to be. And yeah, my laptop broke right before coming. Had to factory reset it. Had to re-download OBS. I'm not really good with settings, and then my mic wasn't working. My phone broke. Couldn't fix my mic. It was ringing in the background, but I think I got rid of the ringing. And I think this setup is okay. Let me know if I should fix the, I don't know, lighting or something. I don't know how it is. Yeah, let me know how to improve the quality again if it's worse than it was before. But the main thing is we're back. We're going to have a lot of chess, a lot of rude comments incoming. And thank you guys as always for watching. Thank you. Have a great day. Peace out.